Let me say something that might honestly annoy you at first, but you need to hear it. Sit with me for a second and really listen. You think she rejected you. You think she pulled away, went cold, stopped replying, and somehow you were the one left confused, hurt, trying to figure out what went wrong. But what if I told you, the worst rejection didn't actually happen to you? What if the worst rejection happened to her? And not just any kind of rejection, the kind that cuts deeper than being ignored, deeper than being ghosted, deeper than someone saying, "I'm not interested." I'm talking about the kind of rejection that confirms someone's deepest fear about relationships. See, when you're dealing with an avoidant woman, you're not just dealing with someone who doesn't text back or like space. You're dealing with someone who is constantly scanning for one thing. Is it safe to open up? Or will I regret it? And here's the controversial part. The moment she even slightly tries to lean in, even just a little, and you respond in the wrong way. Too much pressure. Too much emotion. Too much neediness. Too much expectation. That's when it happens. That's when she feels rejected. Not because you said something harsh, but because in her mind, you just proved that closeness equals pressure, and pressure equals danger. And just like that, she shuts down, pulls back, disappears emotionally, sometimes physically too. And you're left thinking, why is she acting like this? What did I do? This video is going to break that down for you. Not in a complicated, psychological way, but in a very simple, real way you can actually understand and use. Because if you don't understand this dynamic, you'll keep thinking you're being rejected, when in reality, you're the one triggering the worst kind of rejection an avoidant can ever feel. Let me say something that most guys don't even realize is happening. And it's probably already happened to you. You didn't lose her when she pulled away. You lost her right before that. In the exact moment she started to open up. Now sit with that for a second. Because this is where everything changes. Avoidant women don't open up in big, obvious ways. They don't suddenly become emotional, expressive, and fully available overnight. That's not how they work. Instead, their version of opening up is quiet. Almost invisible if you're not paying attention. It's in the small things. She replies a little faster than usual. She shares something slightly personal. She stays in the conversation longer. She shows just a bit more warmth than before. To you, it might feel like nothing special. But to her, that's a risk. That's her stepping outside of her emotional comfort zone. And in that exact moment, she's watching you. Not in an obvious way, but internally she's asking, if I move closer, will this still feel safe? Now here's where most men get it wrong. Instead of matching her pace, they accelerate. They start texting more frequently. They become more emotionally expressive. They try to deepen the connection quickly. They begin to expect consistency right away. And from your perspective, it feels logical. You think, she's opening up, so I should meet her with more energy. But from her perspective, it feels like everything just sped up too fast. And that's when the shift happens. The same moment she leaned in becomes the moment she pulls back. Because in her mind, something just got confirmed. Getting closer leads to pressure. And that feeling, that's the worst kind of rejection for her. It's not about being ignored or disrespected. It's about feeling like she can't move at her own pace without things becoming overwhelming. So what does she do? She creates distance. Not because she doesn't like you, but because she's trying to regain control of how things feel. You'll start to notice the changes. Her replies slow down. The energy drops. She becomes less engaged. She seems busy or slightly distant. And naturally, you'll think, she's losing interest. But that's not what's actually happening. She's reacting to how the situation felt to her. This is the part most guys never understand. Avoidants don't fear connection itself. They fear what connection might turn into. They fear losing their independence, their space, and their sense of control. So when you respond too strongly to their small step forward, it doesn't feel like appreciation. It feels like the beginning of something they might not be able to handle. And instead of explaining that directly, they withdraw. That's their way of protecting themselves. So the real issue here isn't that you showed interest. It's that you didn't recognize the level she was operating on. You jumped ahead emotionally. You moved faster than she was ready for. And without realizing it, you turned her moment of openness into a moment of internal rejection. And once that happens, everything after that starts to change. Let me tell you something that might feel frustrating, but it's going to clear up a lot for you. The very things you believe are making you more attractive to her are sometimes the exact things pushing her away. Not because they're wrong, but because of how they feel to her. Now think about this. When you like a woman, your natural instinct is to step up your effort. You text more. You check in. You try to be consistent. You show interest clearly so there's no confusion. In your mind, that's you doing things right. That's you being intentional. But here's where the disconnect happens. Avoidant women don't just see effort. They feel what comes attached to it. And most of the time, what they feel isn't just effort. It's expectation. Even if you never say it out loud, the moment your effort starts to feel consistent and intentional, it can start to feel like there's an unspoken pressure behind it. Like now there's something she has to live up to. Something she has to match. Something she has to maintain. And that's where the discomfort begins. Because in her mind, she's not just receiving your effort. She's asking herself, am I now expected to give this same level back? And if the answer feels like, yes, that's when your effort stops feeling good and starts feeling heavy. Now understand this clearly. She's not thinking this in a dramatic or exaggerated way. It's subtle. It's a quiet shift in how things feel emotionally. At first, your consistency feels nice. Then it feels noticeable. Then it starts to feel like something she has to keep up with. And once it reaches that point, turns into pressure. And pressure is exactly what triggers her need to pull back. Because pressure, to an avoidant, feels like a loss of freedom. It feels like things are becoming too serious, too fast. Like she's being pulled into something she hasn't fully decided she wants yet. So what does she do? She creates space. Not necessarily because she's lost interest, but because she's trying to remove the pressure she's feeling. And this is where a lot of guys misinterpret everything. You see her pull back, and your instinct is to increase effort. You text more. You try harder. You become even more consistent. You attempt to fix the distance. But from her perspective, that just confirms the pressure. It makes her feel like she was right to step back. Because now it feels like things are becoming even more intense. So she pulls back even more. And just like that, you both enter a cycle. You increase effort, she feels pressure, she creates distance, you increase effort again. And the more this repeats, the more she associates you with that feeling of pressure. That's the part you have to really understand. It's not your effort that's the problem. It's the timing and intensity of that effort relative to where she is emotionally. If she's moving slowly and you suddenly move fast, it creates imbalance. And imbalance creates discomfort. So the shift you need to make is simple, but not easy. Instead of thinking, how can I show more effort? Start thinking, how can I make this feel lighter? Because for her, the absence of pressure feels safer than the presence of effort. And safety is the only environment where she can actually move closer, without feeling like she's about to lose herself. Let me show you something that's been happening right in front of you, without you even noticing it. There's a test. Not a spoken one. Not something she sits down and plans. But it's there. And most men fail it, without even realizing they were being tested in the first place. Now here's the key thing you need to understand. This isn't about games. It's about emotional safety. Every time things start getting a little closer, a little more consistent, a little more real, she naturally pulls back slightly. Not dramatically, just enough. And in that moment, she's watching one thing. How do you respond when I create space? That's the test. Now think about your natural reaction. You notice the change. The energy drops a bit. The replies slow down. Something feels off. And immediately your mind starts working. Did I do something wrong? Is she losing interest? Should I do more? That internal pressure builds. And most of the time you act on it. You reach out more. You try to bring the energy back. You become more present, more available, more focused on her. From your perspective, it feels like you're fixing the situation. But from her perspective, you just failed the test. Because what she was looking for wasn't more effort. She was looking for stability. She wanted to see if your energy would stay the same, even when hers changed. If you would remain calm, even when things felt uncertain. If you would give space, without chasing or trying to control the situation. That's what creates safety for her. But when your behavior shifts the moment she pulls back, it sends a completely different message. It tells her, this connection depends on constant closeness. And that's exactly what she's afraid of. Because now, instead of feeling like she can move at her own pace, it feels like there's pressure to stay consistent, or risk losing you. And that feeling, it pushes her further away. Now here's the part you need to really sit with. You don't even need to say anything wrong to fail this. It's not about the words. It's about the energy. The moment you start reacting instead of staying grounded, she feels it. The moment you start chasing instead of allowing space, she notices. The moment your focus shifts from being steady to trying to fix, it changes how she experiences you. And once that shift happens, she starts to disconnect emotionally. Not all at once, but gradually. Because now, instead of feeling like she can breathe in the connection, it feels like something she has to manage. And she doesn't want that. So she creates more distance. And you're left confused, wondering what changed. But now you know. Nothing dramatic happened. No big mistake. Just a small moment where she needed calm. And you responded with pressure. That's the silent test. And most men don't even know it exists. Let's be honest for a second. Because this is where most guys don't like what they hear. You think you're trying to fix the situation, but what you're actually doing is training her to keep pulling away. Yeah, I said it. And I'm not saying that to attack you. I'm saying it because if you don't see this clearly, you'll keep repeating the same cycle over and over again. Now look at the pattern. Everything feels good at first. There's connection. There's flow. There's interest. Then she pulls back. Just a little. And what do? You step in harder. You text more. You try to reconnect. You increase your attention. You become more available than before. In your mind, you're thinking, I just need to show her I'm consistent. But what she experiences is completely different. What she learns, without you realizing it, is this. When I create distance, he comes closer. Now think about how powerful that is. Every time she pulls away and you respond by giving more, you're reinforcing the exact behavior that's creating the problem. You're rewarding her distance. Not intentionally, but consistently. And over time, it becomes a pattern she leans into. Because now, distance doesn't feel like a risk anymore. It feels like control. She knows that if she slows down, you'll speed up. If she becomes less available, you'll become more available. And that imbalance, that's what slowly kills attraction. Now here's the part you need to hear, even if it's uncomfortable. You're not just reacting to her behavior. You're abandoning your own center in the process. You stop focusing on your routine. You stop maintaining your pace. You start adjusting everything based on her energy. And that shift, it doesn't go unnoticed. Because from her perspective, it starts to feel like, this guy is too affected by me. Not in a flattering way, but in a way that makes the connection feel heavy, unstable, like she has more control over the dynamic than she should. And that's not attractive to her. It actually makes her feel less safe, because now the connection feels unpredictable. Like if she moves slightly, everything changes. That's pressure. Now here's the wake-up part. If you keep responding to distance with more effort, you will keep getting more distance. Not because she's trying to hurt you, but because that's the dynamic you've created together. So what needs to change? You do. Not by becoming cold. Not by playing games. But by becoming stable. When she pulls back, you don't chase. You don't overcompensate. You don't suddenly increase your effort. You stay the same. Grounded. consistent in your own life. Because the moment your behavior stops reacting to hers, the pattern breaks. Now she no longer gets rewarded for distance. Now she has to feel the space she created. And here's the shift that happens. Instead of feeling in control through distance, she starts to feel the connection without pressure. And that's the only environment where she can naturally come closer again. So this isn't about doing more. It's about doing less, but doing it with control. Because right now, you're not losing her because you didn't try hard enough. You're losing her because you tried in a way that made her feel she had to pull away. And until you fix that, nothing changes. Alright, now let's bring everything together. Because at this point you might be thinking, so what am I actually supposed to do differently? Good question. And the answer is simpler than you think. But it requires discipline. Let me start with this. If there's one shift you need to make, it's this. Stop trying to win her over. And start focusing on creating a space where she feels comfortable coming closer on her own. That's it. That's the game. Now here's how that actually looks in real life. First, you match, you don't chase. When she leans in, you meet her there. When she slows down, you don't panic. You don't suddenly increase effort to compensate. You maintain your pace. Because attraction grows in balance, not in overcorrection. Second, you remove the feeling of pressure. Not by becoming distant or cold, but by becoming lighter. You're not constantly checking in. You're not forcing deep conversations. You're not trying to define everything too early. You let things breathe. Because the moment it feels like there's something she has to keep up with, she'll step back. So your job is simple. Make the interaction feel easy. Third, you stay grounded in your own life. This is where most guys slip. They start making her the center of everything. Their attention shifts. Their routines change. Their mood depends on her responses. And that creates instability. Instead, you stay focused on your own path. Your work. Your goals. Your routine. Not as a tactic, but as a standard. Because when your life is steady, your energy becomes steady. And that's what she feels. Fourth, you become emotionally controlled. Not closed off. Not distant, but controlled. You don't react immediately to every shift. You don't let small changes throw you off balance. You observe. You stay calm. You respond instead of reacting. Because to her, that signals strength. It signals that the connection doesn't control you. And that's what makes it feel safe. Now here's the final piece that ties everything together. You stop trying to force progress. No rushing labels. No rushing closeness. No rushing consistency. You allow the connection to develop. Because with an avoidant, anything that feels rushed feels unsafe. And anything that feels safe has a chance to grow. So when you put all of this together, something interesting happens. She doesn't feel like she's being pulled anymore. She doesn't feel like she's being managed or pressured. She starts to feel like she can move freely, without losing herself. And that's when she naturally leans in. Not because you convinced her, not because you chased her, but because, for the first time, the connection doesn't feel like something she needs to escape from. It feels like something she can actually stay in. Let me leave you with one statement that might challenge everything you thought you understood about attraction. The reason she pulled away from you isn't always because you weren't enough. And it's not always because she didn't like you. Sometimes, it's because the way you showed up made the connection feel like something she had to escape from. And that's the part most men never see. You can't force someone to feel safe with you. You can't pressure someone into opening up. And you can't chase someone into choosing you. Because the more you try to control the outcome, the more you trigger the exact response you're trying to avoid. But when you stay grounded, when you control your energy, when you stop reacting and start responding, something changes. The dynamic changes. And more importantly, how she experiences you changes. Now I want you to do something. Drop a comment and share your experience. Have you ever dealt with this kind of situation before? Have you ever felt someone pull away when you were actually trying your best? I read the comments. And I'll respond to as many as I can, because this isn't just content. It's a conversation.